So let's talk now about the Memory Palace. The Memory Palace is a great technique it's a different technique than the stories. This involves, rather than telling a story to put your object somewhere for later recall, this involves using another very, very powerful device, which is our ability to remember places. And what we do with the Memory Palace, and I'll tell you a little bit of history of the Memory Palace in a second, is that we take these memory objects that we create. So we're still using memory objects. Memory objects are the absolute basis of all these techniques, is creating memory objects and then doing what you want to do in terms of how you're going to link them or place them. But rather than putting them in a story, we put them in a specific place that we can visualize. And so then when we want to get the information later, we close our eyes and we go to that place, our memory palace, and we pick up the image where we left it. Cool, right? We pick up the memory object where we left it. Now, the cool thing about this is everybody has 5, 10, 20 places that they know by sight, even if they close their eyes. I can close my eyes right now and visualize my first house, my second house, my third house. I can visualize my classrooms that I've been in as a student, but then as a teacher. I can visualize where I went to college. I can visualize the backyard, my front yard. I can visualize lots and lots of places. So you have an almost unlimited number of memory palaces that you can use whenever you want to. And you can reuse the memory palaces. People will ask me, can we reuse these things? Aren't I going to get confused? And that doesn't happen. When you come into the room and you're looking for Chinese dynasties and you get the first Chinese dynasty, there's some connection that is made. When you've placed the Chinese dynasty on the front door, and then you've put it in the love seat, and you put another object in another place in the room, your mind just is aware of which ones you're looking at or looking for. So this comes from, I believe it was Cicero, who was a Roman orator who was trying to remember where everybody who I think had been killed in the Vesuvius eruption in Pompeii or something was trying to memorize where everybody was. And so he closed his eyes and he remembered where everybody was sitting at the dinner the night before. And this is just a technique that enables you to visualize your place and then take the memory objects that you want to remember and put them in different places. So we'll do that here in a second. So using the Memory Palace, I'm going to step you through the first 8 English dynasties. I'm going to give you these verbally, and you're going to turn these into memory objects, and then you're going to place the object in a space around our selected Memory Palace. Okay? So let's take a look at our palace for the first side. So you see place number 1 is the back of the front door. Then place number 2 is that pink seat. Place number 3 is the kind of stained glass window. Place number 4 is that kind of lamp and maybe a fountain there on the table. Place number 5 is the coffee table. Place number 6 is the sofa. Place number 7 is the space between those 2 pictures. And then place number 8 is the lamp. All right. So typically you'd use your own mind palace, something that you're very familiar with, and you just close your eyes and place it on your front door, and then place it on the hook next to your door, and then you'd place it on your sofa, and then you place something on your TV. But we're going to do this all together here. So as I give you a memory object, I want you to turn the memory, as I give you a DTR concept, I want you to turn that into a memory object using the strategies that we talked about. And I'm going to give you a few seconds to come up with one, and then I'm going to give you a suggestion. And again, you can use my suggestion or you can use your own. And then what we're going to do is we're going to test you and see if you can remember, looking at your place here, if you can remember what you put. So as you're looking at this picture, I'm going to give you the object and you're going to hang it on the front door. And then the next object, you're going to sit in that chair. And then the next object you might throw through the window, right? Remember, memorable works. The next object you might have come crushing out of the ceiling onto that fountain. And the next object might be hiding under the coffee table. The next object might be emerging from the cushions where number 6 is. The next one might be hung between those two pictures, and the next one might be, coming out of the light bulb. All right, so this is where you can be as creative as you want. So let's go over the DTR objects. So I'm going to give you them one by one, and then you're going to put them in the right place, okay? So the first one is the first English dynasty that we're going to place is Wessex. Wessex, all right? So think about the word Wessex, and I want you to place it, or I want you to come up with an object for it. So I'm going to give you a second, and I want you to think through using our principles. Remember, you either already have a word. Let's say you know somebody named Wessex. Great, use that guy. If you don't, then does it sound like anything? And then third, can you be creative? All right? For the one that we did wet sticks. So if you don't have a better one, imagine a pile of wet sticks right in front of that door and make it really wet, right? Just pouring water on top of a pile of sticks. Wet sticks, okay? Now remember, use whatever you want, but this is the one that I'm giving you. Number 2 is Normandy. Normandy. So the one that we used was no man. So we had somebody sitting on that chair saying, no man, but it could be if you're like a Viking fan, Norseman die. So it could be a dead Viking on the chair, or it could be north. If you think of north as the North Pole, so a Northman being Santa Claus, but that gets a little abstract. So you want to do something that will work for you, but put whatever you have on that chair. 3 is Anjou. Anjou. It's actually spelled A-N-J-O-U. So Anjou. Now, some people had a friend named Andrew, so you can envision Andrew popping through the window. You could think of ants and jujubes, or you can think of ant blue. That might be enough to connect you. So you could think of an ant that's really sad breaking through the window. That gets a little abstract. So this is where you want to come up, and it might be good enough to just have an ant coming through the window. One of the things that we're going to do as part of the Memory Masters program is have people share their memory objects. So we're going to build up a library of good memory objects, but you want to get good at being able to do it on your own. So think about Andrew, your friend Andrew, or somebody you know named Andrew, sticking his head through the window. And if you don't have a friend named Andrew, then have an ant that's sad, that's blue, coming through the window. Number 4 is Plantagenet. Okay, that's a big word, Plantagenet. But the way it's spelled is plant age net. So if you wanted to, well, I'll let you do it. Think about what would be the memory object that you could have for Plantagenet, which is spelled plant age net. So what I would do there is I would have a plant that is aging really rapidly, right? Like a time-lapse photography plant aging. And for me, plant age would be enough for me as a hook. But if I wanted to, I could have a plant aging really rapidly on top of that fountain and a net falling over it. So plant age net. All right. Number 5, which we're going to put on the coffee table, is Lancaster. Lancaster. So what memory object, using our 3 principles, either you already have one, you have a buddy named Lancaster, or you vacation in a place called Lancaster and there's a great house. What could you use for Lancaster? So what I use is think about a lance, like a lance that a knight would use. And then if you think about casting, you could either think about like a fisherman casting a lance, like they cast their line, or you could think of casting as being like throwing, so somebody throwing a lance. I think that if you just do lance, that's probably enough. So if you just even had a big lance on top of the coffee table, or a lance with a cast on it. How about that? Like a cast that you'd have on a broken arm. You have a lance, or you have a knight with a lance, and he has a cast on his other arm, and he's sitting on top of your coffee table. Now, whatever object you use is fine, but make sure you visualize it. So you have to visualize with me now, if you don't have a better one, the knight on top of the coffee table with his lance in one hand and his arm in a cast on the other one. Lance, caster. Okay? The next one, number 6, is York. So we've had a lot of different opinions on what to use for York. I have one, but other people have different opinions. But whatever you want to use for York, I want you to put on the sofa at number 6. All right, so I like York peppermint patties, so I might just have that thing just filled with York peppermint patties. Other people were talking about New York, like having the Empire State Building just laying on top of the sofa. You might think of yolk, like yolk from an egg, and just have just a bunch of eggs broken and yolk all over that sofa. Whichever way is fine. Now, remember the things that are to come up. This is silly. This takes too much time. Now, we're spending a lot of time on this because I'm trying to teach it to you. But the goal is when you're looking at a list of things that you're trying to memorize, or you're listening in class and you're trying to memorize, quickly turn it into a memory object. And then once you have it in a memory object, it's going to be easy for you to put it in the basement of your house, or easy to put it on your backyard, or easy to even, here's a little master student tip, put it in the room that you're learning. Run it around the room. They might be able to take off, the teachers might be able to take off all the information when you're taking a test, but they can't take away your brain. So you can use your classroom as your memory palace for information. All right, number 7, tutor. T-U-D-O-R, tutor. Now, what would you use for tutor? Now, in our class, people use tutor, like a math tutor or an English tutor. So if you already have a tutor, you could use that person. Or you could just visualize somebody who's tutoring, maybe an adult and a kid tutoring each other, and a picture of one is in one picture, and a picture of the other is in another picture, and the guy in the one picture is trying to teach the guy in the other picture, okay? But you got to visualize it, all right? That's why the more concrete the object, the better, all right? Number 8 is Stewart. So what would you use for Stewart? S-T-U-A-R-T, but it can be whatever it sounds like too. And we're going to put that in number 8, the lamp. So the one that came up for us during our workshop was Stuart Little, the tiny mouse from the book and movie. So you could envision the tiny mouse just perched on top of the lamp. That's fine, right? All right. But do whatever you wanted to do. So now let's go back and look at our list, and we're going to say number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, and number 8. All right? Now this has taken a good amount of time because it's a very valuable tool, but I want you to recognize that turning things into objects can happen quickly, and then placing them can happen in a second, as long as you do it. So let me tell you, let's do a little quiz. What is in place number 3? Now that is either Andrew coming in through the window, or a blue ant, or an ant blue coming through the window, right? What about number 1? What's in front of the door? Wet sticks, Wessex. What's sitting on number 2? Did you get it? Did you get a good image? One of the challenges is if you don't have a good image, it gets hard to visualize it. And if it's hard to visualize it, then you don't place it, so you tend to skip it. So if you put a no man or a Norse man or a man from the north or whatever on the pink chair, then you're good. Normandy, right? What about number 4? What's on top of that fountain? Plant aging with a net on it. Good. What about number 7? Do you remember the tutor talking to the student? Great. How about what's sitting on that number 5 coffee table? Should be, if you didn't give a better one, it should be a lance or a knight with a lance and a cast on his arm. What's in number 6, the sofa? That is your York or yoke or New York or whatever. And what's on number 8, the lamp? Could be something of your own pick, but we had Stuart Little sitting on top of the lamp for Stuart. All right, so now you're not going to want to use this image because you're not familiar enough with this image to be able to visualize it in your head necessarily. But as you are learning things, I introduced this concept to my daughter by doing the first 20 presidents in our living room. And she was 8 years old, and she memorized the first 20 presidents in about 5 minutes. And if we go and say, what's on the fireplace mantle, she knows. And if we say, what's on the door to your room, she knows. And what's the door to the bathroom, she knows. Because you're so familiar with the area that all you have to do is come up with objects to then place them. All right? So that's how the Mind Palace or Memory Palace works. And you're going to choose which strategy you want to use at any given time. But these are good strategies.